Have you ever been treated differently because of your faith? Have you ever had difficulty sharing your faith in the midst of whatever mission field that God has placed you in? If so, sit back and be inspired. Today's guest, Justin Schmidt, pro footballer, aka soccer player, however you want to call it, of the Sacramento Republic FC, number 5, defender. It's a mouthful, but there you have it. He is going to be on the show today. He's going to be talking about his faith and how he has navigated the waters of being tested and how he's overcome being bullied through his faith, and also how he's been able to share his faith in the mission field that God gave you as a professional athlete. So I want to thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Of course. I think it's a pleasure for me too. I mean, come on. I honestly don't remember how I found him on Instagram, but I found him on Instagram. If you guys want to check out his Instagram, it's at Justin Schmidt 4031.
Exactly, you got it right.
Wow, awesome, cool. For those that don't know what Sacramento Republic FC is, how would you explain it?
Real simple. We're just a professional soccer team based out of Sacramento playing in the USL.
And people can see it whether or not they go to the stadium or not, right? They can see it on My 58, right?
Yeah, they can see it on My 58 TV. It's streamed on ESPN+. You can check it out whatever's the most convenient way for you.
That's super cool. I mean, like, I can't play sports, I can watch them. But the fact that, like, did you ever picture yourself playing soccer on TV?
To be honest, no. I didn't think it was even going to be possible at the point when I was in college, but now I'm here, so it's kind of a dream come true.
I bet. How did that even come about? I mean, that's a huge opportunity.
Like I said, I wasn't expecting it. Went to college. I thought I was going to be a typical college player, spend my time playing in the 4 years and get my degree and be on with the rest of my life. But after my second year, my coaches pulled me aside at a meeting at the end of the year, and they said, listen, they're like, we honestly thought you were going to be just a slightly above average college player. You were going to do well for us, and then you were going to start on with the rest of your career, whatever that may be. They were like, but you actually have a shot at going pro. Wow. And so from here on out, if we're a little bit tougher on you, it's only because we think you can make it. And so that, I think, was, well, it was definitely the moment when it clicked that I could actually make a career out of it.
And so that is your career. That's what you do full time. You don't do anything else?
No, not occupation-wise. Okay. We obviously all have our hobbies, but nothing for money purposes.
Hey, that's awesome. Some people have to do so many different hats. So
we're pretty
having
lucky.
Like one occupation, I mean, come on, dream come true right there.
Exactly.
What are some of the hobbies that you like to do when you're not out on the field working your butt off?
It's more of a question, what isn't my hobby? It's just pretty much any and everything I can get my hands on. I love music. That mainly just came from my family. So whether it's singing, playing piano.
You sing?
Yeah.
Do you really?
I do, yeah.
Like, do you need music, or can you give us a line?
Like, I'm probably not gonna do it.
Are you
I'm
sure?
probably not. Yeah.
No.
maybe a little later in the show. No, but
okay. All right. Hey, you heard him, guys. So you gotta stick around. You gotta stick around to hear Justin sing. All right.
No, like creating music is definitely like a big hobby of mine that comes from my family. They're very, very musical.
Can you play instruments?
I can, yeah.
Like what?
Piano and ukulele right now.
Ukulele?
Yeah.
Nice. I tried playing flute once. Lasted for a few hours.
Yeah, that one's a hard one.
No, well, yeah. Like, I was a cheerleader for like a day, maybe 2 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you were like, no, not anymore.
Yeah. It was just the people. I didn't really want to be around. It was first grade, though. I mean, come on, you know.
First grade? I didn't even know they had cheerleading in first grade.
Yeah, for like basketball.
Oh.
Do you know?
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day.
What other hobbies?
I really like reading, writing, and then really anytime I can get outside, no matter where it is, whether it's hiking, whether it's going to the river, to the lake, wherever it is, pretty much my favorite thing for sure is getting outside.
Okay. So you like hiking and doing all of that?
Camping, backpacking,
And you're
anything.
actually out of Sacramento, correct?
I am, yeah.
Is there lots of places to hike around there?
Not right in Sacramento, but there's a lot of surrounding areas. You got Desolation Wilderness, El Dorado National Forest, Yosemite's south, obviously.
So bummed about Yosemite.
Yeah.
I'm so bummed. I've never been to Yosemite. And I mean, my hearts are out to the families who have lost their homes and the firefighters who are working tirelessly in order to get the fires out all around California and the United States, all over the world. Props to you guys. Seriously, hats off to you guys. You guys are so amazing. I mean, really, I've been seeing these photos of these firefighters sleeping on the ground and just, they look exhausted, and I can't imagine.
Yeah, no, it's, we can only really express our gratitude, but even that doesn't really do it justice.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. Well, we're really thankful for you guys. Thank you for everything that you do. And what are some of the things that you personally struggle with as a professional athlete? Firefighters, obviously, they have a pretty rough environment sometimes. all the time to work in. So what is it like for you? Is there any, like, what are the pros and cons to being a professional athlete for those that don't know?
Well, I mean, you had mentioned it earlier. The pros are, this is our one job. You know, everyone else has a typical, not everyone else, but most people have a typical job of, 9 to 5, and ours is a 9 to 1, 9 to 2. But at the same time, that in itself can be a challenge just from the aspect of we have to learn how to be able to switch on and off that competitive side of ourselves. And so when you start training, you have to make sure that you understand, like, this is an occupation. You're no longer just hanging out with your buddies at soccer practice in high school. It's a professional environment. This is your job. And so to be able to turn that competitive dial up a few notches, and then when you get done with training to immediately shut it off right away, just for your own mental health, that I think everyone figures out somewhere along the way. For me, it was just this past year, because you just find yourself frustrated for way too long after training. If you had a bad training, it could ruin the rest of your day.
And how long have you been playing for Sacramento Republic?
For Sacramento Republic, just this year.
Okay.
So I came here just in February.
Congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And it's actually a lifestyle, right? So you say it's like 9 to 1, 2 to 4, but it's really, I mean, you really have to cater your whole life around being a pro athlete, right? I mean, I'm sure you have, like, what's your diet like? Do you have to, like, diet a certain way?
You don't have to diet a certain way, but a lot of us take pride in our diet just by trying to keep ourselves healthy. And you obviously have to work out and, like, keep yourself in shape so you can be good on the field. And you're a defender, so, like, what is your main responsibility during the game? Like, sorry, I was a soccer announcer for just a little bit. They just threw me up there one day, but I don't know the positions that well as much as football. No, I mean, a defender is exactly as it sounds. Our main goal is to defend our goal, not allow any chances for the other team and try and keep them to 0.
Awesome, awesome. And you guys actually just won your recent game.
We did. So we did our job.
Awesome, that's wonderful. You guys can actually go see Justin play and watch him on TV, which is really awesome. And you guys can check him out on Instagram. We will put up his username for you guys, so you guys can go follow him. He has a check mark, so he's legit, guys. The one with the check mark, you can follow that one. Actually, do you have other people that have made you accounts, or?
There's been a couple people here and there that have tried to make my account, but they have a fancy verification process that cancels it out pretty quickly.
Hey, look at that. See, right there. Follow Justin. You can also follow at Shasta's Journey if you would like, but no pressure, guys.
Do both. Do both.
Oh, yeah. See, Justin. Oh, by the way, today's outfit is sponsored by Justin's Closet, inspired by his sister. The cross necklace. Shasta had technical difficulties with her outfit, so thank you, Justin, for the necklace. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And considering we're here on set to talk about Jesus, how did you find Jesus?
It was pretty easy for me to find him. My dad was a pastor for the longest time, up until just a couple years ago, when he wanted to separate his job and his faith and kind of find why he was doing it all again. And so for me, it was just a matter of growing up in it. And I think for a while I hadn't thought anything of it, and it was just, my dad goes to church, my mom does, I'm going to join them. But it wasn't until about high school, after a Young Life camp, if you've heard of Young Life.
I went to this one called Radical Reality up in Chico. It's actually where I gave my life to God at, but I haven't heard of the one that you went to.
Oh, nice. Yeah, this one was just in Lost Canyon, just another one of their sites. And it was just a night that we had under the stars where they told us, go outside and think about why you're here, think about what's the most important thing to you, and why you're going on this journey. And then I realized at that moment, I was like, my faith is my parents'. It's not mine. And so it was at that moment that I realized there were certain changes I had to make if I was going to make my faith my own, as opposed to just kind of following in the footsteps of my parents. If I wanted to, as my dad had explained to me so many times, lead my wife and my family one day in faith, then it required something different of me. And so at that moment, I hadn't understood it, but it's been coming along.
And how'd you go about completely giving your life to God? Because there is such a difference between just kind of growing up in it and not actually accepting it for yourself. But what are the steps that you took to actually really give your life to God, surrender everything of yours, and just give it up to Him?
I think it's an ongoing process. I'm
100%.
not entirely sure if I've done that completely.
It's an everyday thing.
Yeah.
Every morning, God, just take all of this, please.
Yeah,
take it all.
Just take my life. Here it is. Try not to make it too crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was baptized when I was 10, but at that time I knew I was doing it because I knew it was the right thing to do. But it happened more The biggest change was in college, actually, when I realized through one of my best friends and mentors what it looked like to live a life that was pursuing Christ and living in Him and not just like Him. And it was a day just like any other, but he was just chatting with me just normally about, we were just hanging out that day. And then someone else came in that needed to talk to him for a bit. And as I was walking out to allow him to talk, I had kind of just overheard just a small thing he said. Just immediately, he's like, hey, I want to pray for you. And I was like, well, I know that person's not Christian, but he still wants to pray for him. And I was like, living in Christ, not just like Him. I was like, you actually have to do more than just say it. You actually have to do it. And so, like I said, he was praying for this individual who didn't know Christ, didn't want anything to do with it, but that's what he knew to do. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's awesome to be able to step out in faith boldly like that. And that's a learning process in itself, too. And being a Christian, some people get this misconception that life's just going to be great all of a sudden when you give your life to God. But that is far from reality, because Jesus tells us that that's not how it's going to be. It's not going to be easy, but we can have hope in Him. And with your journey with God, what are some of the struggles and challenges that you've been able to overcome through Christ Jesus?
The biggest one was definitely just being bullied growing up. And, I never led on to it. I actually didn't think I told my parents about it until just a year or two ago that was even happening, mainly just because I didn't, like any other guy, I didn't want to appear weak and like I was being, taken control of or advantage of. And I also didn't want my parents to feel bad.
And what type of bullying was happening? Bullying is bullying, but how did bullying look in your life?
Any and everything. It ranged from just verbal abuse, and it ranged to getting jumped on my way home from school.
I got jumped too.
Yeah, it's not
I was
fun.
gonna high five to you that, but that's not
You
a
can't
high five.
that. You can't,
I was like, that would have been so stupid.
That.
I'm glad that I held back. Yeah.
But no, it was any and everything, really.
Yeah, bullying is such a very difficult thing to do and go through.
It is.
When did that start for you in your life?
Elementary school.
Same, like what, first, second grade, maybe third grade if we're lucky?
Second grade, actually, yeah. I remember that very specifically.
Yeah, and what advice do you have for people who are in that exact situation right now?
That's a hard one to know. Like you had said before, like a life in Christ isn't necessarily always easy, and so really sometimes life is just going to suck. You can't do anything about it, and you just kind of have to know that Christ is doing it for a specific reason, which is, I think as a kid, what I told myself over and over again. But at the time, it was more of a coping process as opposed to like a proper belief. But getting older, seeing how it shaped me now, seeing how more resilient and perseverant I am through harder times, that's more when I've realized now that He did all of that for a reason. I didn't like it at the time at all, obviously, but it shows now.
And I'm sure you don't mind if people reach out to you if they're in that spot in their life right now.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'll be more than happy.
Yeah, so you guys check him out on Instagram. You guys can reach out to him. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to talk with you guys, walk with you guys. I also was bullied quite a bit, death threats and jumps, all that stuff. And you said it was because of your faith. Did you always know it was because of your faith, or how did you come to know and understand that?
So obviously, not every single part of it was because of my faith, but a large portion of it was mainly just because I didn't at the time understand the difference between living like Christ and having Him in my life. I was trying to think, I allowed myself to be an easy target, essentially. So I never stood up for myself. I was like, no, this isn't what God wants. He doesn't retaliate. He doesn't fight back, which is obviously not true. So I just kind of allowed them to keep coming at me, and I never said anything. And then so because of that, it was just like, oh, he's an easy target. Let's keep going after him. Oh, he walks the same way to and from school every single day. He doesn't change anything. Let's get him again. So a lot of it's self-inflicted, but that's okay.
Well, it looks like you have grown from it, and that God has just continued to use that testimonial and experience in your life for His glory and for His good and for His purpose for your life. And, I'm definitely shaped and molded you into the person that you are.
Most definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that you have been through as a believer?
Everything I've gone through is as a believer.
Yeah.
To be completely honest. No, but I guess the biggest one was a time period throughout college when I just felt alone. I felt isolated. I honestly felt like that nobody had cared, and which wasn't wasn't the right way to think at all. But, when you're going through certain times, it feels like, for me anyway, it feels like the way it goes is when one thing goes wrong, everything just follows after.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
domino effect.
Yeah.
So that was
You feel like your whole life's just crashing right in front of your very eyes.
exactly, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
I think the thing that gets me the most is when you start worrying not about just today, but the day after and the day after that. And God only gave us 24 hours in a day for a reason.
Yeah.
We can only handle that much, okay?
No, exactly.
I
and
always
that's
remind
it.
myself that I'm like, Shasta, don't worry about tomorrow. That has its own worries and its
Yeah.
own everything. If you just focus on today and get through the day.
Yeah,
And
that was
celebrate
part of,
small victories,
Yeah, that was part of the issue, and eventually reshaped my thinking to be day by day, and then even at a point just hour by hour, because it got to a point where this feeling of isolation and being alone got me to the point of suicidal thoughts, and even to the point where I had attempted to take my own life.
Wow.
Obviously unsuccessful. I'm still here.
Praise God that you're still here.
But and to be honest, it wasn't even until after that, when I was letting my family know about that I realized the impact it had, that I wasn't alone. And the hardest part was seeing their reactions and understanding that they did care for me, and I just wasn't aware of it, or wasn't choosing to be. Not entirely sure which one that was. And realizing how selfish that was, because it's not my choice to decide when I'm done and when I continue on. And it was a selfish, very selfish moment, but
I'm glad you're here. Glad God talked you through that. And I know that you've mentioned a few times that, it's all about living like Christ, right? And being closer to Him and, really focusing on that relationship and putting Him first. What types of things have you implemented in your walk with God since you finally made the decision, like, okay, I'm finally ready to go all in, go all for it? What types of things have you been able to? I mean, being a pro athlete, you have quite the busy schedule. So how do you keep God at the center of your life?
It's more of just making sure you kind of have a routine. My dad did really well to just explain that, for more questions, or for all the questions that you have, you find more of those answers in His Word. And so each morning is just a time spent in devotion. It's just a nice half hour to hour, depending on the morning, just spent reading His Word and honestly just reflecting. Quiet time is super important for me, just with helping me stay
Be still and know He's God.
relaxed. Yeah,
And that is not easy sometimes. I had the hardest time with that. I didn't start realizing that I needed to do that until I was living in Mexico. I was taking care of 7 babies, and I had a lot of downtime by myself, like when, the babies were sleeping and things like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't have anybody else to talk to. And then most of the time my phone was dead, no music, no nothing, and I was just sitting there like, okay, God.
You're like, hey, I know it's been a while. No.
Yeah. Yeah. So just routines.
Yeah, that's one of them for sure. And then obviously, for me, actually, a huge thing that helps me out is actually just working with kids, whether it's dropping by UC Davis and doing some of the visits with the UC Davis Children's, or finding any and every opportunity just to be around kids. It helps me at least just kind of remind me of the innocence that should be there, and just,
Sure.
The way that they approach life, and I know this may sound silly to a lot of people, but it's like they do what they want and they don't do what they don't want to. And so if they don't like something, they're like, oh, no, that's okay. And a lot of times we forget that because they're like, oh, I have to do this, so I'm going to go do it. And, there's obviously priorities and obligations that require us to do those certain things, but even just like little things that, if it comes down to simple things, just like cursing, it's like, oh, I don't actually want to do that. Why am I doing that? Or, kind of, we're all guilty of it, but kind of like following along with a joke that goes just a little bit too far, that is kind
Totally.
of getting onto somebody in a way that it shouldn't. And you're like, I don't actually want to do that. I'm going to stop that. And so it's nice, getting that reminder just from little kids when you're ever able to work with them, because they have that innocence and that joy that a lot of the times we forget to hold on to.
Amen. That's a really good reminder. Even in the Bible, it talks about a child's heart and how important it is to stay true to that and to reflect and look back on that and be able to just embrace that childlike heart.
Exactly.
What types of things are you doing to use your platform as a professional athlete to give God glory?
So that's one that I'm kind of more just coming into a realization of, that I really do have this platform. And for the longest time, I was more afraid of having the platform entirely because I didn't feel like I deserved it. But in talking with another one of my pastors at my church, he was helping me understand that he was just like, maybe, he's like, what God's trying to work with you on is, this is not a platform for you. He's like, this is a platform for Him. And so I've actually kind of just been more and more realizing what that looks like. And so for me, the easiest way that I've always done that is just by example. And, in doing as much work as I can with the community in spreading love in whatever way possible, even if it's just like a small word of encouragement here and there with somebody.
Even through your actions.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm learning more and more what that looks like each day. Obviously, still don't have a full grasp on it yet, but it really is for me kind of just showing love each and every day in lots of different ways, because it looks different with every single person you meet and are in touch with each day.
It's literally as simple as that. Just showing God's love. That's all we're called to do. We're only called to love, guys. It's because God is love.
And my hope is, and it's happened a couple times, which is great to see when somebody kind of sees something different about you in the way that you're acting. They're like,
Wants
okay,
the light.
yeah, they're just like, that's a little bit different from what I know. They're like, I wonder why. And so I've had a couple people ask me, they're like, so why do you do this? And it's a really easy way for me just to jump right into it. And it's always, for me, much easier when people approach me than for me just to approach them out of the blue. And obviously there's different ways of going about preaching and being a gospel. But in my experience, from the way that I like to do it, it's easiest when, or maybe not easiest is the right word, but I find it most effective when the other people see what they want to in me and then come to me and approach me about it. And so it's kind of them like opening up and allowing me to pour into them.
Do you have any struggles with being a professional athlete and sharing your story? Because I know, for instance, people who are on TV, thankfully, I am able to have this platform and talk about Jesus, and I'm very, very thankful for that. But there's other people who are on TV that can't talk about their faith in that way. Do you also have some sort of like regulations, things that you aren't allowed to do?
No.
That have kind of
No,
full
we
range?
don't have any.
Wonderful.
We don't have any regulations necessarily. We're
So you
just
can kind of just share your faith. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously in a respectful way, but
Yeah,
overall
yeah.
you can, that's amazing. Because some occupations, you don't have the flexibility or the rights per se to, just.
I mean, even just in schools, it's the same way. And so, we don't. We obviously don't have to get into that. But
People already know.
No. But So we have no regulations on it. We have no. We have no one in command that says like, no, you can't share that. And so,
That's good.
it becomes pretty easy.
That's good. Well, I'm glad that you're in that position then. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. What opportunities have you had since being with the Sacramento Republic to share your faith and share your light with people?
So the opportunities haven't necessarily been super. Well, they haven't been targeted specifically towards Christianity or being able to share that faith. It's like I said before, it's kind of just making sure the people that I do get to talk to understand where I'm coming from, even if it's just a simple thing like, well, no, I won't use that example, but no, it really is just kind of having people understand like where I stand with my faith, and there's certain things that I won't do if I don't like it. There's certain causes that, although they are great and supported by many number of people, it's ones that I'm like, just as long as it's not my name being used, like that's fine.
And how have you kind of stayed away from, I mean, I don't know kind of what the atmosphere is, with the team, but I guess media kind of portrays like athletes, like, like after they're off the field, kind of like partying and having a good time. Like, how do you make sure that, you're not getting involved with the wrong things?
I think it's just an understanding of
Wisdom.
what you can handle. Yeah. It really is. It's like an understanding of just, okay, I know I can allow myself to do this, and I was like, but not to this degree. And so, I don't see anything wrong with grabbing a couple beers with my teammates by any means.
God turned water into wine.
Yeah, right.
This girl isn't allowed to have wine yet in the United States. In Canada, I can drink though. So.
No, exactly. So it's like I'm of legal age, and it's drinking to the point of inebriation, which is seen as a sin.
Yeah.
And so
you kind of want to know what you're doing.
Exactly. So as soon as the alcohol starts to affect,
accountable.
Yeah, how you're thinking, that's when
understandable.
I draw the line. That's where I don't want it to ever be the case. And so, to be honest, it's not too much of an issue for me personally. And so it's just a matter of enjoying what I can without crossing over the line.
I'm glad you mentioned that, though. There's a part where only do as much as you can handle, per se. Some people might only be able to have one drink, while some people may be able to down like a lot more than that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what my limit is yet. But maybe I'll know one day.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. What desires do you have kind of going forward? Things that God has put in your heart that you're expectant that He's going to give you in the days to come and that you look forward to in the future? I know it's like a mouthful, but we all have things that we like, we pray about, we look forward to. Just like, yeah, what's your heart for what you want in the future?
I don't know, to be honest. I work so hard to change my thinking to day by day that I'm like, the future will come as it does, and there's not much I can do about it. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what I'll be doing. I don't know who it'll be with.
Yeah.
And so I really am trying to take everything day by day and not expect anything, because as soon as I expect something, it goes the exact opposite direction. And I feel like that's him. I feel like that's him just like, I don't know. In my mind, God has a sense of humor. That's him kind of slapping me in the face and like, you're wrong, come back to me.
Well, for me, like personally, like I have a desire to be a mother one day.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know.
No, I mean, obviously, like I have that desire to have a family. And I mean, who knows? Maybe that's not in His plan. I have no idea.
I feel if God put that desire in your heart, He's gonna make it happen. Maybe not in the way that you think, okay, because it doesn't happen that way. But it happens, you know, in His timing, His will, His plan is so much better than our plan.
Just the more and more time I spend with Him, though, the more I realize that I have no idea what's coming. And so to expect anything, one, I feel like is almost kind of wrong for me to expect anything, because I'm like, He owes me nothing.
Seriously, though, He's done way more than we could ever think of.
I'm like, sorry, I can't really just give you my life like you did for all of us, but in the same way I can, and that's just by going day by day with Him.
Just surrendering everything to Him, yeah. Oh, I love that. That's awesome. And we only have a few minutes left, so I kind of want to ask you. There's a lot of people who want to be professional athletes one day, and who desire to have that path and to have this career that you have. What advice do you have for them going forward, whether they are 10, 15, 20? I mean, what should they be doing right here, right now, in order to kind of go into that path?
So my advice for you guys would be just to remember why you're doing it. My dad, all growing up, he would tell me before each and every single game, would ask me before each and every game, he'd be like, all right, why are you doing this? And I'd say, because it's fun. And he'd say, why else? And I'd be like, to praise God. We're given our talents for a certain reason, and we may not know what they are. And to be honest, we may never understand why we have these specific talents. But He gave it to us for a reason. We do it to glorify His name. And even a verse that my dad had continually told to me, over and over again. Everyone has like their one verse that they kind of run to. Mine was Isaiah 40:31, but those who trust in the Lord will renew their strength, mount up on wings like eagles, run and not grow weary, walk and not be faint. And it was the same idea that, in Him, I won't get tired. With Him, I won't be faint. And so it's, like I said, remember why you're doing it. If it's really something you want to do, you will have to go through trials. You will have a hard time in certain areas that others won't, because you'll be asked to do things from both areas of your life. And it shouldn't be separate, but it is at times. And so remember why you're doing it, and you won't have a problem after that.
Thank you so much for being on the show with us, Justin. It means
you.
a lot to me for having you share your story. Thank you guys so much for watching and following Shasta's Journey. Go to shastasjourney.com to see more, and look us up on all social media platforms at shastasjourney.com. Have a blessed day, guys.